Okay, let's move on to Halara's story, Raining Cats and Dogs. The Nocturnal Detective Agency receives a request to investigate an unusual drowning. Was it suicide or murder? Will Master Detective Halara be able to solve this odd and onerous case? So, like, Halara was kind of the only Master Detective that was competent, so I'm hoping this is an interesting case at least. I only wish that in the main game at least, if they wanted Halara to be considered like a non-binary character, which I think would be really cool, I think they should have just come out and say it. Because Halara, appearance-wise, is very female-coded, which of course is not always an indication of gender. I recognize that. But like the only time in the entire game that they really mention the possibility of Halara being non-binary is when Shinigami is making fun of Yuma for maybe falling in love with Halara and not knowing her or their gender. Which, again, coming from Shinigami, it just sounds like Shinigami's just making fun of Yuma and it's just kind of out of left field and she could just be talking out of her ass, right? So, like, that doesn't lead any credence to Halara being considered non-binary because no one else even mentioned it if it wasn't Shinigami. So, I think they should have just gone full on, and maybe, I don't know, there could be, like, societal reasons, but I think they should have just gone full on, like, Halara's pronouns are they, them, or something like that, just to give, like, outward recognition and representation instead of just trying to, like, hide it, I guess. But, I mean, it's their story, it's their choice. That's just something I wanted to mention. But I guess I do like Halara out of the bunch. But then again, the Nocturnal Detective Agency characters didn't really do much in the main game either. Because each one only stars in, like, one chapter. Not even the final chapter. Which I thought was another weak point of the main story, considering the message of the game is supposed to be, you know, depend on your friends. Anyways.
Halara, do you know where the milk I put in the fridge went? I was saving it for my coffee.
Beats me.
That's my seat, you know.
How much?
Huh?
How much do you want for it? I'll pay your asking price. Well?
You gotta be kidding. Fine. Just keep sitting there.
I will.
Yakou should have asked them for a lot of money.
Someone's coming. I wasn't expecting guests today.
Again, isn't our agency on a ship or like a submarine and originally it was submerged? So how are we getting all these visitors to begin with?
Right this way. It's a bit cramped in here.
Are you the chief of the Nocturnal Detective Agency? My name is Tetra. Pleased to meet you.
Ah, your name's Tetra. Shall I call you Zelda?
I'm the chief. That's just one of our detectives.
Oh, excuse me. Your detective was sitting at the biggest desk here, so I assumed that...
My seat gets stolen the moment I leave it open. Let's sit down.
I was told you investigate murders.
A murder case? It's possible for us to handle it, but what we can or can't do depends on whether or not the peacekeepers have already gone through it.
I see. My father passed away in a rather bizarre manner. The peacekeepers declared it was an accidental death.
Also, I kind of wonder if we're going to see Yomi or Martina during any of these DLC episodes, just to give them more screen time, but maybe the reason why they're not in them is it would make it too easy to date when these happen. I mean, I'm guessing these all happen before Yuma arrives, right? But if they happen during the main game, maybe they just don't want to show us when it happens in the timeline to make it vague.
But I just can't believe it was an accident.
The peacekeepers usually try to declare any unnatural deaths as accidents. Why do you suspect that it wasn't one?
My father kept tropical fish as a hobby. One morning, he was found dead, drowned with his head stuck in the fish tank. Do you really think that could be an accident?
He drowned with his head stuck in a fish tank? Can you describe the situation?
Clearly, someone had it out for him and wrote his name in the death note, right? That's clearly what happened.
The fish tank is set rather low, so you can view it from above. My father was in a kneeling position, with his head dunked into the water.
That sure is bizarre. What did the peacekeepers have to say?
They say he was electrocuted, and passed out when he touched the temperature control switch with wet hands. And he fell into the water and drowned, unfortunately.
Are you sure the cause of death was drowning?
Yes, that appears to be the case without a doubt. A trustworthy doctor did the autopsy.
Trustworthy?
I see.
Everyone in this town is so
From what you've
trustworthy.
said, you can't really deny that it could have been an accident.
No, the problem is the room where my father passed away. It was obvious that someone else had rummaged around.
What do you mean?
Well, the room has lots of tropical fish tanks lined up. But on the day my father died, all of them were shattered to pieces.
So they weren't even subtle about it, is what you're saying.
And of course there was water and dead fish all over the floor. Someone must have forced their way into the room to do something so terrible. I believe my father was murdered by whoever did that. This must be a murder. Please uncover the truth of my father's death.
So I hope that maybe Yakou actually helps out Halara during this case, because honestly, he also has had very little screen time.
What do you think, Halara?
Or like active screen time, I should say.
Beats me. I wasn't paying attention.
Don't lie. There's no way you couldn't hear us.
You can assume I don't exist, unless pay is involved.
I can pay. My father left me an inheritance.
I will give you my entire inheritance for this.
Oh, don't mind my detective. Our rates are always reasonable here.
Then you'll investigate this case on my behalf?
Yeah, we're investigating a homicide and a fishicide.
Huh?
All those fish. All those fish.
Yes, of course. As detectives sworn to protect this town, we can't leave any mysteries unsolved.
Thank you. I'm so happy I worked up the courage to come here.
The Nocturnal Detective Agency is here to protect the peace of Kanai Ward. You can always count on us. As for investigating this case, we'll check out the crime scene soon. Promise. Jeez.
That was rather reckless of you to promise.
It's not like I have a choice. I can't just abandon people in need. I'm Yakou Furio, chief of the Nocturnal Detective Agency. I gotta protect this town.
Do you even have a single lead to solve this case?
What? Of course. I'm a detective after all. If I proceed with the investigation, I'm sure I can find some kind of clue. But I'll need your help, Halara.
That depends on the payment.
You know I don't have a lot of money.
I will say though that like the whole Halara wants a lot of money all the time thing is kind of also annoying. Like it's another like one-trick pony type of either joke or character trait.
And you know that I don't work for cheap.
Then, how about a deal instead?
What deal?
If you solve this case, I'll let you keep a cat here.
Ooh. I'm more surprised that Halara just doesn't do it without Yakou's permission at all. Wait, but isn't Halara like allergic or something? Like wasn't it like Halara really likes cats, but they're allergic? Wasn't that something? Or am I thinking of someone else?
Really?
Yes, really. Hey, where are you going?
To the crime scene.
Hold on. The client just left.
Oh, they like cats and dogs.
Why don't you wait until tomorrow?
Fine. I shall review the case's records until then.
Halara's fee is cheaper than I thought.
I mean, cats are expensive, Yakou. I guess if Halara's taking care of it, then it'll go out of their money and not Yakou's money. Well, let's hope this case is kind of interesting. Hey, Mika! Welcome to the stream. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the raid. Hello, Mika, welcome, welcome. Sorry, let me get to a stopping point.
Thank you for coming. You really are willing to investigate the case.
There we go. How was your stream today? Let me write you a shout out. How's your stream today? Please join us in following Mika Akatsuka. Thank you for coming by. What did you do today? I appreciate you sharing your audience with me. I'm Kiro, the frog-themed martial artist. And we're playing through the DLC for Master Detective Archive's Rain Code after we haven't touched this game for like 5 months. Ooh, good, you're playing Baldur's Gate 3. That sounds like fun. I haven't played Baldur's Gate myself, but like a lot of my friends have been playing it. I've been following some others. And it does look like a lot of fun. I just don't know if I have time to get into it, but I'm glad you had a good time. Feel free to sit back and relax or go take care of yourself after your stream. I really appreciate you being here. We are trying to solve a mystery about a homicide, and we're just starting our investigation.
Well, that's our duty at the Nocturnal Detective Agency. Your house is pretty big. Your father must have been well off.
Yes. My father owned a medical devices company. He contributed to Kanai Ward's medical advancements for years.
Well, yeah, no problem. Yeah, if you don't want to get spoiled, I totally get it. Hope you have a good rest of your evening, and thank you so much for dropping off your viewers here. I really appreciate it.
I simply can't believe he met his end like this.
I like how the body outline is just 2 sausages because of the pose. I mean, it makes sense, but it's just kind of funny.
We'll find justice for him.
Thank you. I am in your debt.
So I'm guessing we're going to use Halara's ability.
This is my fiance, Jaren. We've been living together for about a year now.
Oh, Jaren, you're looking a bit suspicious now. You have a name. It's never good to have a name in a mystery case.
Nice to meet you.
You don't have a portrait, so that might save you. I guess we'll see. I mean, Desuhiko's case had 2 new portraits, one for the red-haired guy and one for the reporter, but since then, none of these new NPCs have had portraits.
I'd like to ask you more about the details later, but can we take a look at the scene for now?
So I guess it does look like Yakou's helping out this time. That's good, I
Oh,
guess.
before that, do you have a photo of your father?
Of course. Here's a picture from when he was still alive.
Thank you. Halara, over here. I'll leave the investigation to you. It's a bit too cramped for all of us to be wandering about.
Okay, never mind. Yakou's gonna leave.
I'll keep speaking to them outside. Talk to me when you're done.
Understood. Now, time to review the cards I've been dealt.
So do we actually get to do a real investigation this time?
Remember this.
I'm assuming so. Start here. Let's leave.
There is a sticky substance stuck to the doorframe. Perhaps tape residue? All of the fish tanks have been shattered. There is broken glass scattered on the inside. which means it's certain someone smashed it inward. Why would someone do this?
As they were hungry.
I see.
The equipment and food for the tropical fish are placed together. Seems like nothing has been used since the incident. There's some dust.
Right.
There's some stains on the floor. It's likely due to the water spilled from the fish tanks. I mean, how long has it been since this murder? Like, the girl made it sound like it'd been at least a couple days. You would think that... I mean, I guess if the water dried, it would still kind of leave a stain if there was, like, fish water, but... It looks like the water on the floor is still wet. Other than that, nothing else seems suspicious. Okay, no, okay, never mind. It's wet looking because it's shiny floor, I guess. Yeah, that's supposed to be just like a wood stain, I guess. It looks like there's still water there. I will overlook that.
It's a regular sliding window with a crescent lock. There are no suspicious marks on it. There's a small veranda outside. We're on the second floor, so any rain that falls off the eaves flows to the drain.
Ah, the culprit must have vented.
There's some blue paint on the inner side of the frame. Looks like something rubbed against it. This may have something to do with the case. What is this? There's a stain here that looks like a horizontal line. Upon close inspection, there appears to be a faint outline of the same stain along all 4 walls.
Investigated things of note, but wait, I didn't even look at the area where the body was. There was nothing to look here, really?
That's about all I can investigate for now. I should go talk to our clients before I observe the crime scene at the time the body was discovered. The crime scene has been inspected, Chief.
Thanks.
Thanks for entertaining them, I guess.
There are a few things I'd like to confirm.
Yes, please ask me anything.
Can you give me the details of when you discovered the body?
It was, I think, around 6 in the morning. My father usually woke up early for breakfast, but when I went to get him, he wasn't in his room. So I looked around and noticed Sugar barking at this room.
Sugar.
Sugar?
That's the name of our dog. Hey!
I like how the dog is rendered very differently than the characters who are kind of stylized.
Sugar sure is happy. She's rarely friendly with anyone.
I'm not sure if we should let her into the crime scene room.
She barks at me all the time.
There.
Shall we continue?
Oh, sorry. Sugar was barking in front of the room, so I opened the door to take a look. There I saw my father. His head was in the fish tank. He was already gone.
I heard her scream and ran over, but what I saw took my breath away. The fish tanks were all destroyed. The floor was covered with water. All the tropical fish Father loved were scattered across the floor, dead. Were they valuable?
I'm not sure. I don't know how much they were worth, but the fact is, my father cared for them a great deal.
If the fish were expensive, do you think someone tried to steal them?
Are you implying my father's murder was an afterthought?
Well, I'm just considering possibilities.
If they were going to steal the fish, I doubt they'd smash the tanks.
You're right.
Do you know the estimated time of death for the victim?
I believe it was around 10 o'clock the night before.
When was the last time you saw him alive?
Right around 7 that night. I ate dinner with him. He went to his room after that.
Does anyone else live here?
It's just me and him now. The servant left after making dinner before 7.
Tell me, what were you doing around 10 that night?
After finishing dinner with my father, I did some cleaning and washed the dishes. Jaren came to the dining hall around 8 for dinner. And then we watched TV in the living room until around midnight.
Yes. I know for certain we were together between 8 and midnight.
Did you ever get up during that time? Such as to go to the bathroom?
I don't think so.
Were there any screams or sounds of a struggle around 10 at night?
No, not at all.
I see. That leaves me wondering who entered that room, when they did, and why they smashed all the fish tanks. The fish tanks are large and have thick glass. You'd think you'd hear them being smashed.
True. All I know for certain is that we didn't hear anything like that.
Do you often come in and out of this room?
Not at all. Only my father used this room.
What did the peacekeepers have to say when they saw the state of things in the room?
They said my father was stressed out. That he lost control and smashed all the tanks himself.
Was he actually stressed out?
Truth be told, my father was lamenting over a prized tropical fish he had accidentally killed that morning. I thought he could have done something extreme, given how much he regretted his mistake.
He did look rather depressed.
Still, my mild-mannered father would never do something like this.
Did you notice anything strange about your father during dinner?
He was sad about the fish, but he ate normally. I didn't notice anything in particular.
It's hard to think he was so distraught that he'd smash all the tanks on his own.
You're right. But that's what the peacekeepers told us happened.
I'll take another look around. For now, I'd like to ask you to leave the room.
So you're gonna do that thing, yeah? I'm counting on you. Let's wait outside.
They're like, do what thing? What are they gonna do? What's the thing?
The trump card is still face down. Time to use my post-cognition to see how things were at the time the body was first discovered.
Okay, so I wanna mention something. And I kind of wanted to mention this during the main game, but like I couldn't find a way to put it in without fit it into the conversation naturally and accurately explain what I'm thinking, but I think I've been thinking about this before. Spoilers for the main game, by the way, specifically chapter 2 and 4. So, okay, Halara's ability lets you see what the room looked like when the first witness entered the scene. Other than not the victim and not the perpetrator. And that worked in case 2, and one of the plot devices was the fact that someone was revealed not to be the first witness on the scene because we didn't see what they saw, which showed that they were the murderer. Now, my question is, like, so this, let's say this ability exists, right? And it's like, it works objectively, right? It shows you objectively what the scene looks like depending on who is first on the scene, right? So that's just how the powers that be deemed that the skill works. So if there's multiple perpetrators in the scene, right? Do all of them get excluded, or is it just the one who does the final blow? Or like how is that calculated? if it was a human, if it was like a human person arbitrating who gets to be excluded from the rule, then I could accept that. But because this is like an objective ability, like how does that play in? And the reason why I mention that is because another plot device in the game was, you know, the mystery labyrinth is built by whoever created the mystery. And so in chapter 2 of the game, we found out that there were, I mean, chapter 1 and 2 show us that there's multiple culprits in those cases, right? So that when we got rid of the mystery labyrinth, those people were offed, right? But then in chapter 4, like a key part of the case is that there's a character that's very involved with the mystery labyrinth, but they don't die when the mystery labyrinth is closed because they were deemed not to be directly involved, despite having a hand in trying to cover up the crime and a hand in providing a piece of evidence that was integral to the crime. So at the time I made a joke and I was like, well, how come that person didn't get off by the mystery labyrinth, right? And like, I understand the game's logic of like, they weren't directly involved, they were just kind of indirectly involved. I can't even say indirectly, it was like indirectly involved. That's why they escaped judgment. Now, I could accept that if there was some kind of mystery labyrinth god up there deciding who has enough degrees of separation to not be considered the culprit. But because the mystery labyrinth is supposed to be objective, like again, who's deciding, who's arbitrating how many degrees of separation someone needs to be in order to not be considered the culprit? Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds really complicated. And I know it's just the developers wrote the game that way. That's just the way they wrote it. And like a lot of the arguments I made during the game that I didn't like people in the comments were trying to argue back and be like, well, they needed to do this because then this, and then this, and then this. And I'm like, well, that's because that's the way they wrote it. My question is, why did they write it that way? So, like, sometimes I'll get into, not to say arguments, but when I'm talking about fiction with some people, right? They'd be very hung up on, like, the in-universe reasons for something. But, like, a lot of my questions have to deal with what were the out-of-universe reasons for doing something? Or what was the thought process of on the writer's side? On, a different level of existence, right? And I think some people don't always get that. Anyways, I just thought it was worth mentioning because I didn't mention it during my playthrough of the base game, and I kind of wanted to mention it at the time, but at the time I was just a little bit too preoccupied to mention it. I know it's very late now to be talking about that, but I just want that on record. Even in post-cognition, traces of a sticky substance are on the frame. What kind of tape was stuck on? Hey Kieran! Welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for the bits, I really appreciate it. Hope you had a great day. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I see.
All tanks seem to have been smashed inward. There's not much difference from the room in its present state. How is my favorite game in the whole world? It is bearable. Like, I'm not disliking my time, but I'm also not having I'm not having a riot here.
I see.
The time the body was found, many things were scattered around. Could this sort of mess be caused by just a broken fish tank? I mean, maybe Halara's episode would turn out to be better. Yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes when it feels like I'm questioning a piece of media, some people take it as like a personal attack on their favorite game or media, and then they act very, I don't know. Can we just have like a civil conversation sometimes? But no.
There are dead tropical fish everywhere. The whole floor is completely drenched.
No, poor Nemo.
It's not locked. Anyone could come and go through here. Perhaps this is how the culprit entered the place.
Nemo.
There's a dead tropical fish in the drain on the veranda. Why would that be there? The paint stuck on the frame can be seen here.
asking people to be civil in this day and age is like asking a Karen not to be a Karen. You see, that's the thing too, is like I feel like the prevalence of social media and people become way too comfortable protected behind anonymity that they feel like they can say whatever they want. And sometimes that bleeds out into real world too, but like specifically online. Or they don't realize that the words they say or the tone that they use could very easily be interpreted as something that they don't mean. Like it could seem rude, or it can seem condescending. And people just, I know some people have trouble picking up on cues like that, and obviously through a written medium I can understand that. But it's still like, you know, it's still an issue, I think. And it's still something that people should be striving to improve or avoid, right? It seems the stains on the walls were present when the body was found. I don't see any particular difference. No, the stains are darker than they are currently. Does that mean they were made around this time? Like, are they implying that the whole room was flooded? I mean, obviously they emptied the fish tanks, but I don't think that's enough to flood the room up to that height. Alone.
The victim's body is kneeling against the edge of a fish tank, with his head inside. Like the other tanks, this one is smashed up too. Looking closely, he is soaking wet. It'd make sense if it was just his upper body, but for his whole body to be soaked is unusual. I'm beginning to see the truth behind this case. That's all the investigating I need to do for now.
I really wonder what kind of gameplay they're gonna make me do to solve this mystery.
Are you done?
Is it just gonna be like text options, like we did with Fubuki? Like I don't think we're gonna do like a mystery labyrinth style minigame.
The dog has something in her mouth.
Hey, Sugar!
What's this?
That's Sugar's favorite toy. It's just a rubber hose tied up in a knot. Ever since she was a puppy, Sugar has loved playing tug-of-war with a rubber hose.
Don't tell me Sugar somehow like flooded the chamber by pulling on a hose.
So I still make toys out of hoses like this. But I don't think I made one for her recently. Where did she get it from?
Wow, that's interesting. Let me take a look.
So maybe the door was taped up with some kind of waterproof seal, and then the room was flooded, and then the tanks were smashed. That way they didn't hear it because they were underwater. And something about this hose being used to drain it through the fan or the patio door.
Wait, don't touch it.
What's wrong?
Put that in a plastic bag without touching it directly. I believe it's evidence.
Even though we've kind of touched all the evidence in here already.
That's evidence?
Consider it a precaution.
How's the investigation going? Are the peacekeepers right? Did my father pass away due to an accident? Or was it...
The answer is clear. This was no accident, but a murder.
It was a murder by Sugar!
Huh? Really?
What makes you think it's a murder?
My thinking.
Must be a murder because of the walls, the fish tanks, the window, the floors. I mean, I think the fish tanks would be the best option here. What about them? Oh, so I'm actually... Well, none of these other ones really make sense.
The victim died with his head in the fish tank. Is that right?
Yes, that is certain.
As you can see, this fish tank was destroyed like all the others. That is far too strange. It means something logically impossible occurred.
Impossible? What do you mean?
I shouldn't have to explain it.
Because if it was shattered and it drained out, he wouldn't have drowned.
If the victim drowned with his head in the tank, then it had to be filled with water. But as you can see, the fish tank is destroyed, meaning it is unable to contain water. Like with the other tanks, the water spilled out when it was smashed, emptying it. So how could the victim drown in a fish tank that held no water?
Oh, now that you mention it.
The peacekeepers claim the victim was disoriented and smashed the fish tanks himself. But if the victim was still alive when he smashed the fish tanks, it would have been impossible for him to have drowned. In other words, the victim was drowned, then placed next to the fish tank to make it seem like an accident. The culprit must have believed this camouflage would be enough to fool the peacekeepers.
So my father was murdered.
Yes, there is no mistake about it. This is murder.
Hold on. If the culprit wanted to make the victim look like he drowned, why did they destroy the fish tank? Didn't they realize their cover would be blown? And plus, all the fish tanks were destroyed, not just that one.
It must have been part of their plan for the peacekeepers to overlook this contradiction. However, destroying the tanks required a lot of effort. If the culprit did so despite the contradiction it created, then we have to assume there was an unavoidable reason behind it.
An unavoidable reason.
So, who is the culprit?
I must investigate further to find that out. I'll report back once I find the answer.
Yes, please.
Has anyone outside your family entered or left the house recently?
I don't think so.
Were there any tradesmen who came to work on your place?
I can't think of any.
Allow me to change the question. Have you recently done any remodeling or repairs to the home?
Oh, now that you mention it. The rain gutters on the roof were broken, so Jaren fixed them.
I knew it, he's the culprit.
He fixed the rain gutters?
Yes, he's an avid DIYer. He not only fixed the broken parts, but also checked the gutters around the whole building, which was a lot of work.
He's an avid DI murder. Do it murder. I mean, unless they introduce another character.
I see. That concludes my investigation.
What? Are you sure that's enough?
So, are they trying to say that they... Yeah, maybe a DIE, a die. Hey, Extra, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. Are they trying to say that he redirected the rain gutters to go into this room, to flood the room?
Jeez, you're always off in your own world. I'm sorry about that. Our ace detective isn't very friendly.
Like, I guess the whole flooding the room thing doesn't make sense considering those items are still on the cart. Unless the perpetrator had a chance to put them back.
That being said, I believe this case will be solved soon. Please be patient for just a bit longer.
I just think that the stains on the wall are definitely something about that.
Thank you.
Hey, Rain! Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm doing well today. Thank you, thank you. I hope you're all having a great Black Friday as well. Whether you're in the States or not.
Halara,
Well, thank you for the stretch.
just as you suspected, it could be the fiancé.
Oh, thank you for the fun frog fact, Aru. In Egypt, the frog is the symbol of life and fertility. So in Egyptian mythology, Hejet, I think that's how you say it, is the frog goddess who represents fertility. Thanks so much for the fun frog fact. Did I buy anything for Black Friday? Not really. I find that the deals aren't usually as good anymore, and things that I usually want aren't things that go on sale, so I don't really do Black Friday shopping anymore.
Jaren has been living in the client's home and mooching off her since he got fired from his job a year back. He's in quite a lot of debt, too. At one point, he was spending almost all his time in casinos.
Was he in the previous episode in the background of the casino?
He kept asking the client's father for money, but was always denied. Seems the father was also against their marriage.
So money is the motive. If the father were to die, The daughter would inherit everything. So if he married her, the money would be his.
Makes sense. The thing is, that man has an alibi. The victim's estimated time of death is 10 at night. There's no mistake that Jaren was with the client at that time. Makes no sense to suspect Tetra, since she's our client, so we have to assume his alibi is airtight.
Right. I agree.
His alibi is perfect. Not only was he with Tetra at 10, but he was also with her for 2 hours before and after. So, as it stands, it's impossible for him to have killed the victim.
No, the alibi isn't a problem. It's possible if a certain trick was used.
A trick?
But I still lack hard evidence. Perhaps it's worth rolling the dice here.
Hey, are you sure about this?
We'll make our move tonight. Let's go to the client.
Is it true that you know the truth behind this case?
You never heard of this game before? It wasn't really that advertised, and it wasn't really that mainstream, but if you're familiar with Danganronpa, it comes from the same people that made Danganronpa. So the only people that were really interested in this game were Danganronpa fans. But I don't think this game lives up to it. I think it's very inferior compared to Danganronpa.
That's right, miss. Allow me to explain. The key detail for this case is the victim's cause of death.
So I bet Halara's gonna use some kind of fake to see if the husband or the fiancé slips up and says something that he shouldn't know.
Without a doubt, the victim died by drowning. But making it look like he drowned in the fish tank was camouflage.
Yeah, we played this game like 5 months ago. This is like DLC that came out later. And I don't know, by all accounts, I don't think I enjoyed the game.
Why would such a
Unfortunately.
thing even be needed? Because it secured the killer's alibi.
Because I really like Danganronpa.
You said that the victim's time of death was around 10 p.m. In other words, the culprit secured their alibi at the same time as they murdered the victim. Is that really possible?
Through a certain trick, it was possible to drown the victim even if the culprit wasn't there.
Drown him without being there?
The trick the culprit used was...
I mean, it was the vent and the hose, I think. I think Halara is specifically going for the hose in this case. Like they needed the dog to pull the hose, I think, to activate something else. The hose flooded the room.
First, it involves this rubber hose.
What if I get these things wrong? Does Halara just correct me?
That's Sugar's toy.
If you untie the knot, it returns to being a hose. This was what was first used in the crime.
How was it used? Don't tell me that's the murder weapon.
If you check the vent, you'll see the color of paint scraped on there matches the hose. It was likely passed through the vent.
Someone put the hose in the vent. Why would anyone do that?
It's nothing special. The hose was simply used for its original purpose.
Its original purpose?
One end of the hose was placed on the edge of the rain gutter on the veranda side. Prior to this, the culprit adjusted the rain gutter so that the hose could be inserted into it. The rainwater from the gutter passed through the hose, filling the room.
Right, because it's always raining in Kanai Ward.
Huh? What do you mean? Halara, you think this place got flooded with rainwater? That would drench the whole place.
When the body was found, the room was, in fact, drenched.
But that was because of the broken fish tanks, right?
That's part of it. But the main reason was due to rainwater pouring into the enclosed room.
Wait, what do you mean? What's the point in flooding this room with rainwater?
The culprit's goal was to secure their own alibi at the estimated time of death. This trick was necessary for that.
I don't get it. Can you explain from the beginning?
Let's go over what the culprit did on the day of the crime in order. First, the culprit mixed sleeping pills into the victim's dinner. While the victim was asleep, the culprit proceeded to prepare the trick.
Sleeping pills in his food? That reminds me. My father did seem sleepy shortly after eating dinner.
After dinner, the victim likely went to his room to lay down. The culprit then sneaked into his room and carried him out while he was asleep. That was how the victim was transported to this room.
At this point, you're sure he was still alive?
Of course. If the culprit murdered the victim earlier, then their alibi wouldn't have worked. The culprit had to murder him in such a way that would secure their alibi. The preparations were done in this room. After bringing the victim here, the culprit used duct tape on the gap near the door to weather strip it.
Oh, they're not even gonna use Culprit-kun. The black mannequin thing.
Weather strip? What's that?
It prevents water from leaking outside.
What do you mean?
Let me explain. After weather stripping the door, the culprit started destroying the fish tanks. The culprit likely covered them with cloth to dampen the noise. Once he smashed all of them, he leaned the victim onto the fish tank. The culprit then moved to the window on the veranda and weather stripped the outside of it. Finally, they took the hose connected to the rain gutter and passed it through the vent to the inside of the room.
I mean, I get that the game is trying to set up an interesting murder case. And like, this is all logically possible, but like, in practicality's sake, this is extremely impractical. I mean, I know we know that the peacekeepers are corrupt and they don't properly investigate crimes, but like, this would be much easier if someone like did proper investigation, like a team of people, like forensics.
Preparations in place, the culprit left through the veranda and returned to the mansion as if nothing had happened.
How does that complete everything? The victim was still alive at the time, right? When was he murdered?
Because then they have to come in and also remove all the tape.
The victim naturally drowned after being left alone for several hours.
Huh? How's that?
The rainwater from the rubber hose flooded the room in a few hours. The whole room was turned into a fish tank, this time filled with rainwater.
This room is very waterproof.
And that is how the victim drowned.
The whole room was flooded?
That can't be.
The proof lies in the stained walls. The day of the murder, the room must have been filled to that line with rainwater.
Rainwater killed the victim?
Correct. Only in this city could such an approach be possible. The rain never stops in Kanai Ward. This makes it easy to estimate the amount of rainfall to a certain degree. So it is not impossible to create this alibi trick with some calculation.
I think that's a bit of a stretch. Wouldn't it take at least half a day for the room to fill with enough rainwater to drown the victim?
I'm sure it would require more rainwater than usual to accomplish it. Which means you'd need to gather all the rain falling around this giant mansion.
Gather all of it how?
It would require slight adjustments to the rain gutters. After that, the rainwater would flow to the veranda.
Adjustments to the rain gutters?
There would be plenty of water if all of the rain that pours upon the mansion is rerouted to this room. That explains how the culprit secured their alibi while drowning the victim. In the morning, before the body was found, they removed the weather stripping and drained the water through the veranda. If you check the drain in the veranda, you should find dead tropical fish that were carried out with the rainwater. The culprit smashed the tanks beforehand to prevent rainwater from being stored inside. Well, that's how I would have done it. But maybe the culprit didn't realize that before they started draining the water. Seeing the fish tanks filled with rainwater, the culprit panicked and smashed all of the glass to hide the evidence. They must have carelessly broken the one fish tank the corpse was leaning on in the process. Isn't that how it went, Jaren? I'll be direct. You are the culprit.
Hold on. Is this some kind of joke? Why would I kill my father-in-law? That's stupid.
But you were fixing the rain gutters a few days before the incident.
That's because you asked me to fix them. How does fixing some stuff pin me as the culprit? That's crazy talk.
So you intend on maintaining that you're not the culprit?
Of course!
Then we'll have to ask our little friend for the answer. Come here, Sugar.
How did that dog open that door? On command. To someone who's not the owner.
This is the rubber hose used for the trick. There are scrapes on its surface. That's the proof. I'm sure the culprit tried to dispose of it, tying it into a knot before throwing it away. But our friend here found it for us. Good girl, Sugar. Only the culprit has directly touched the rubber hose. I'm certain his scent is still on it. Tell us, Sugar, who do you smell on this?
So, it is you.
What an intelligent dog.
This is complete nonsense. I won't accept it. If I have to, I'll kill all of you.
Well, if that doesn't sound like a confession, I don't know what does. I didn't do it. I wasn't the culprit. But I will kill all of you to silence you.
Hey, don't tell me that you're really...
I was so close to getting all that money. Calm down. Hey, why me?
If it wasn't for you kids and your dying dog too.
I can kill the woman anytime. I'll start off with you. Damn you, detectives. This is your fault for sticking your nose into my life.
Can you handle this on your own, Chief?
I'm pretty bad at this sort of thing.
Is Halara gonna do
Please help.
the thing? Martial arts.
I'll kill... Ow.
Yes.
You saved me.
I never thought it would be like this. What am I supposed to do?
You're not alone.
Huh?
That's what she's saying.
If you ever need help, come to us. The Nocturnal Detective Agency will always be at your service.
Thank you.
Like how her hair, when she bends over, you can see it's like it's rendered as like just two perfect layers. The Tetra girl.
As promised, you can keep that cat here.
That was a very loud cat sound. And again, look at the rendering on this cat compared to all the characters.
I don't need your help. That's what the cat is saying.
Come on, this cat thinks it's some sort of hard-boiled detective? Well, I suppose I don't mind.
This city is a difficult place to live, even for the animals.
Right. I hope we can keep solving the mysteries here to make this city a better place. And make it a nicer place for them to live too.
I sincerely hope so.
You're so cold to humans, but you like animals.
Are you teasing me?
See, there you go again, making that scary face. Seeing you play with the cat, you look kinda cute. It sure would be nice to see more of that smile around here.
He's about to get his butt kicked.
I hope you keep using your powers to change this city. I know you can do it. For their sake, too.
That depends on the payment.
Come on. Well, how's this? Consider it the reward for this case.
You just realize this, look at the characters. Their skin tone looks like Homestuck trolls. They are a little bit on the grayer side. You know, I was talking about how, like... I was talking to someone a couple months ago about this game, and like how, you know, a lot of the Raincoat fans were Danganronpa fans, right? Then I was talking about how, like, you know, a lot of them have been very rude to me, right? Especially on YouTube. And then someone brought up that a lot of Danganronpa fans... And I can say this because I was a big Danganronpa fan too at one point in my life. A lot of them seem kind of immature, especially because a lot of them came to Danganronpa from Homestuck. And I was like, I don't really know that much about Homestuck, but I do know that fandom has a bit of a reputation. It is on the younger demographic. So I was like, that actually kind of makes a lot of sense, now that I think about it. Or like a certain type of person, you know? Again, not to dunk on them, but I think some of the behavior, I think, makes a bit more sense when I think of it that way.
Maybe you could ask for permission next time.
Thanks.
So I don't know, like I think that one was better than the other two because it actually felt like we were solving a mystery. I mean, Fubuki's kind of started moving in that direction, but then like after a while it goes on autopilot, and then Desuhiko's was like we didn't really solve anything, it was all just done through the story. Now, I kind of wish that they had more times for us to actually give our input, because Halara really only asked us to input stuff a couple of times, like one for the fish tanks, and then and saying that the body was kind of weird, and then one for saying that the vent was used with the hose. But it would have been nice if there were more opportunities for us to feel involved by actually, like, you know, after we say that the hose was used, Halara doesn't even need any input from the player anymore, even though we go through all the who's the culprit, how they do it, What did they modify? What was the motive? Like, there were lots of opportunities to have at least some gameplay and make us kind of feel like a detective. So I feel like that was kind of lost. So, like, I think like these episodes are moving in the right direction as we go through them, but they're still not really hitting that stride. I guess we'll see. It was better than the other ones, though, I think. So there's chapter Halara.